Agreed. Thank you, board members. Let's go ahead and get ready to jump back into our agenda. Yeah, so how many do we have here? 2, 4, 6, 8. We've got a quorum in here. We're going to jump in with consent calendar. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and go to our agenda item 7, unfinished board business. And we're going to start with our general consent calendar. So I see that member Earl has a light on. Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to pull off of the consent calendar and vote on it separately. Sorry, I got to go back a day now. Let me get the number. It's the West Ed contract. There's 2 of them, I think, but it's the, oh, let me pull it off. Sorry. Yeah, West Ed USB leadership development proposal. I'd like to pull that one off.
It is number 2 on the consent.
It's number 2.
So yesterday's 12.2 request.
Yeah, so we're pulling off contracts, and specifically I want to address that one. So.
Oh, let me.
13.3.2.
Oh.
Technical.
Yeah, I went to the wrong.
Sorry, Jenny, I did not
Okay.
mean to hijack. I just have it right in front of me.
Yeah, perfect. That works.
So we're going to pull agenda item 13.2 from yesterday. 13.3.
3.2. Yep.
Okay. Oh, I see. The West Ed, excuse me, the West Ed. Okay. Thank you, Member Earl. Do we have Member Bogus?
Thank you, sir. I would like to pull, I'd like to pull 13.3.1, and then ultimately I'd like to pull 4, 1, and 2. Items 4, 1, and 2. So 13.1, 13.2, 13.4.
Okay.
And then in 13.3, I already articulated that. Thank you, sir.
And okay, so from what I understand from yesterday's consent agenda, we are pulling items 13.3, 13.1, 2, 3, and 4. Does that sound right between Member Bogus and Member Earl?
I don't believe so, sir. So if we can go one level up, I'd like to just pull 13.1, 2, and
Okay.
4.
1, 2, and 4. Yes,
Yes.
I see.
And then if we go into 13.3,
Then it's the second.
it is
West
my
Ed
understanding
contract.
that Member Earl pulled
Yeah.
13.3.2, and I would like to pull 13.3.1 and 3.
Yes, okay, so let me reiterate. For the agenda items, 13.1, 2, and 4 are pulled in their entirety. And then 13.3, contracts 1, 2, and 3 are pulled. Member Bogus. Or, I'm sorry, do we start? Okay, go ahead.
I move that we approve the minutes in 13.4.
A motion to approve the
Second.
minutes, second by Vice Chair Hart. Member Earl? Oh, never mind, let's go ahead and vote.
So do the rest of those contracts?
Nope.
Do the minutes right now. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Okay, what else do we have remaining? Well, everything's kind of pulled, except for there's some contracts remaining. Member Bogus.
Sorry, I thought I was still on. I move to approve action item 13.1, small district. Sorry, I need the thing. I move to approve the small district capital projects fund panel recommendations.
There's a motion before the board to approve that the board approve the small school district capital projects fund panel recommendations. Do we have a second? Second by Member Booth. Member Earl?
I'm in line. I'm in line.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote then. That passes unanimously.
Sorry.
Back to, over to Member Earl.
Yes, I would like to, the motion I have is for contract number 3.32, and it's to, it's just to postpone this contract until we've fully finished our strategic plan. That's the motion, and then I can speak to it if I have a second. Okay, so is that okay if I speak to it now?
Yeah, of course it is. I just want to make sure this is the right one. This is
It's
West
the-
Ed USBE Leadership Development.
Yes.
Okay.
And the thought being, we're investing a lot of time into this. I really feel like we need to have our strategic plan done so that their training, staff's training, leadership training aligns with the direction the board wants to go. I just feel like we need to maybe have everything in alignment instead of kind of a hodgepodge type of a thing. So that's my recommendation on this one. Is it's delayed till we've completed. It's postponed.
So do we take no motion on this?
I don't.
We just pull it and take no motion on it? Is that?
I think you've moved to postpone the approval of the contract until
Well, unless you just don't move it, and then it just sits.
There you go. You can do that.
So,
I think that.
but I mean, I'm not taking anything away from you because
Yeah.
you're explaining why you don't want a motion.
Well, either way we want to do it. If we want to just
Well, what was your
not
motion?
take a
And I'll
motion.
honor
My
your-
motion was to postpone until we
Okay.
would vote on this when we had completed our, fully
it's-
complete the strategic plan.
It's been made, it's been seconded.
Yep.
It's out of my hands, but in the future, if we don't want to move something, let's just not move it. Member Davis.
I think maybe it ensures that maybe we'll come back for consideration.
Okay, perfect. Then the motion is to postpone the West Ed USBE Leadership Development proposal, and it's been seconded. I see Member Bogus has a light on. Is it for this item? No, sir. Member Lear? Yes. Please.
I just have a question for those who requested the contract or who are the contacts and or maybe legal staff to, I don't want to interfere, I don't want to have any breach of contract because of this, or I want to know from Leah, Darren, Deborah, if this frustrates an ongoing training process that they seem to support. So I hate to just insert ourselves and say, nope, we're taking this off the table for a while, without knowing how it disadvantages our staff or perhaps causes legal problems for us.
I have the same question in addition to hers, except for that also that with the timing, because the Leadership Academy happened in August, does that timing piece impact?
Yeah, Dr. Voorhees.
Thank you, Chair. Leah Voorhees, Interim Deputy Superintendent. So as Board Member Riel mentioned, we began this process back in August. We had 2 days of training with the West Ed team, and the staff who participated created action plans of ways that they wanted to move forward on an 8-step process that's outlined in the book Leading Change. So the professional learning was based on that framework, the Leading Change framework. Work that they currently have, work that they knew was coming, how they could lead the implementation of that work. This is a continuation. This request is a continuation to receive specific coaching, more intensive professional learning related to those action plans that we created in August. Does that, I can't respond to the legal question.
Yeah, I get that. No, that helps. I mean, what happens if this is delayed for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months? Do you just get to pick up where you left off? Is it throw you out of a cycle with West Ed or other participants? What's the effect on your chosen professional development?
So, thank you for that question. Some team members will be able to continue to work on their action plans. Some team members specifically requested more support in understanding the framework, in having a coach to be able to support them in thinking through how to implement the next steps. And so we would continue to try to work on our action plans. We would probably, some staff would definitely be less efficient and effective. We also have new staff, especially new leaders that we've hired since August,
right.
who would be participating. And so their ability to participate with us with those of us who already took the training and started the action plans will be delayed.
In your professional development, in your professional leadership, that those roles being very new to you.
Exactly.
Folks.
Our new leaders.
Okay, and then the second part of my question,
Sure.
Chair, to AAG Buse or Beal, and you're not the procurement specialist, kind of, but I just wonder how this interferes with, we just can't usually up and stop paying on a contract, or I don't know if that how that affects the contract.
AEG Buse.
This contract hasn't been agreed to by the board yet, so it's not that you're stopping paying on a contract. This is a new contract. It's
Okay.
renewing a new, I see it as renewing a new contract. It's not an amendment to a
Okay,
contract.
so legally there isn't
Yeah,
any
you're fine. It's
interference.
the harm that it will do to the staff in not having the leadership support that they were planning on having.
Thank you, Michelle. And just follow up.
Member Lear?
My last comment. I think, again, in our roles as board members, there are certain things that the staff selects based on their needs, just like teachers and educators in schools select based on their needs. And I am very reluctant to interfere with that. These are the staff's choices. It's the superintendent's staff. And I don't think it's the role of the board to interfere with those professional choices. And it's pretty obvious that we have a significant turnover and have new leaders who, if I were in their shoes, would want some support and leadership training to do their jobs as best they can for us. And I'm very reluctant to interfere with their choices for what they need.
Thank you, Member Lear. I'm guessing that Member Reel got her question out through your microphone. You're efficient. You're good. Superintendent Dixon, and then we have Member Booth.
Thank you. Just a reminder that we had an audit. Oh goodness, I don't remember the dates, but one of the audits was looking at our staff, looking at turnover rates and a variety of things that we put into the superintendent's report. And one of the issues that was talked about is that we really don't have consistent training for our leaders on change management and some of the things that, you don't get when you're in a classroom, you come in as a teacher, and we just assume that people know how to be leaders. And so we have a whole group of leaders that two of the really key things, and this is true when you're a principal in a school as well, one of the key things you need is some training and support on change management, as well as just continuity with, how do you give and receive feedback, all these leadership things. And so is something that WestEd has a proven track record. Of course, we shop around and use the RFP process. So this is really about responding to our culture surveys, an audit, and trying to make sure that we get the support we need for our leaders to move forward and move the board strategic plan. And it doesn't matter if you have the actions in place or not, you at least have a mission and vision. And this is about their personal skills. And so then when whatever you put in front of us as a strategic plan, we're more equipped, given those kinds of skills, to move forward. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Superintendent. Member Booth.
I am fully aware, as we all are, as members of the board, that we still have some work to do on the strategic plan. And hopefully we'll do that as efficiently and as soon as possible. But in the meantime, everything's moving forward, and things are moving fast. And new changes were announced this morning, and even more changes may be on the horizon. And this change management leadership package is something that people in any complex, important organization need to be able to deal with. And so I'm fully supportive of this contract and of their being able to continue that kind of training and that kind of preparation, so that when we get our act together, and not that we haven't been getting our act together, but it just takes time. When we finally deliver what we're expected to deliver, they'll be ready to take it with open arms and run with it. Because as an organization, as individual leaders, they are feeling equipped and prepared and eager to help us accomplish what we want to accomplish for Utah's kids. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Booth. Member Earl.
I appreciate the feedback. I guess I was looking at it from the board's lens, right? And not necessarily staff. So I appreciate the dialogue that's gone on here. I can see when you've begun something and you've started working in a certain direction, that there could be great benefit. I do want to, I guess because we have had so much change, that's why I guess I'm thinking of it from a little different perspective. I can see the benefit, thank you for the feedback, of completing this based on the individuals we have here and the leadership. And we're feeling like, if I'm understanding, that a 3-month delay till we can get our strategic plan finished could be impactful in a negative way. Is that what I'm understanding? Yeah, I'm just trying to, I guess I'm looking at streamlining, which is as much of anything that came from the audit is trying to, right, streamlining up. That's how I was viewing this. So I'm just asking, if there were a couple months delay, does it impact that in a way that's going to be negative if we're trying to streamline? That's what I'm looking at.
Let me answer that. Thank you for the question. I think timing is an important question. We've been trying to get something in place for a while, so we have to look at staff schedules as well. We're leaning into a legislative session, and so by the time we get the contract done, this leads itself then into being able to set up time for the professional learning in May and June. So it's, if you delay it, then it puts it probably more into the fall and trying to work out everybody's schedules when they're busy again. So part of that is backwards mapping when you can get the contract in place, which this is, and then move forward and set up the dates, and they get booked out in advance. We actually, I'm trying to think if it was maybe my second year when we started engaging in similar work, and we worked through WestEd, who is our regional service center partner, and we contracted with University of Virginia, the business school, Darden Business School, to do a lot of this training. And some of our LEAs were also involved. And it was very powerful training, but it was it's not a one and done, so it's over the course of a couple of years as well. And I think that's important. You know, the saying you've heard me iterate, that training without follow-up is malpractice. So I think to your question about time, Member Earl, that's also important to know that it's not just a one and done, but it will happen over time. So as you're working on the strategic plan and getting that solidified, it'll probably be second or third iteration down the road where we can then say, okay, now that we have the strategic plan, knowing what we know, what are elements that we need to put forth that we've learned from this training? And so you're getting the coaching and support and help when you get that plan. So it's almost like you get the introductory piece that can then go hand in hand with implementation. We have to have the skills to implement,
Yeah.
right? So I just know it was very helpful for me personally as a leader with my leadership team to go through this. And it helped us get down to those actionable steps and accountability and all of the things that helped us move forward. I hope that
Thank you so
helps.
much. Is it okay if I speak? I appreciate the additional narrative. Like I said, I was looking at it from a certain perspective, but I can see even if it's taking months to kind of put it in place, there's a good chance we're going to have our strategic plan there that can help inform some of that. So I can't really vote against, I can't vote against my motion, but I would actually maybe make a substitute motion that we go ahead and approve this based on the discussions that we've had today. So, can I do that?
I don't know, I mean, what,
Can I not
I think
do
we
it?
could just vote it down and then vote it in, but substitute motion to do the exact
Oh,
opposite.
you're just
that's
saying just
fine
vote
with me.
against it. But it has to be moved forward anyways. We'd have to do two motions versus just a substitute.
Let's do it. So
I just-
your substitute motion is to approve this contract?
Yes.
Okay. Any other contracts you want to throw in with it? Okay.
We'll just
I'm
do this
asking-
one.
I know, I am pushing luck. Okay. Let's,
I think based on that, we better just go with one.
do we have a second for that? Second, okay. Second by Member Carey. And then, let's vote on it as soon as we have it ready. Okay, that passes. 11 in favor, 1 abstention by Member Brinton, and 1 no vote by Member Bogus. Okay. Member Bogus.
Would you rather we stay in the contracts, or can I go outside the contracts?
So we still have, the items that have been pulled are within the contracts, the 13.3.1 and 13.3.3. And then outside of the contracts, we still have 13.2, agenda item 13.2, again from yesterday's agenda, so.
Okay, well then, since I'm going to move outside of the contracts just so we can get through the
Sure.
list.
Let's do it.
I would move to, I'm going to go ahead and move the motion in the affirmative, that the board provide a letter of support for the child nutrition programs to partner with the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food in applying for the 2025 fiscal year Farm to School grant opportunity operated by the USDA. And
Okay.
then
We
I
have a
have some
second on
questions.
that? Second from Member Carey. Let's, back to you, Member Bogus.
So I don't know, through the chair, sir, it seems that we give up a lot of autonomy and we accept a whole host of intrusive regulations when we support this. And it's weird, like I said, I openly admitted I made the motion in the affirmative, but I would just speak against this motion. I don't think this is something the board should be doing. I don't think it's something we should be involved in. And it's something that sounds great on the surface, but when you dig into this information, we are accepting just absurd amounts of regulation. We're giving up local control and autonomy. And then there's some data stuff in there. I don't support this in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you. Member Carey?
Yeah, maybe there was a memo about it being backwards day, but this motion was made in the affirmative. That's why I seconded it. In light of the fact that it is an opposition to it, I don't feel comfortable supporting it. I don't know procedurally how that works, other than to say, just like everyone else, I changed my mind. I don't.
Do you support the motion as written?
Yes.
Then your second is still good. She just spoke in
Oh.
opposition to the motion.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm trying to be
If we vote yes, we're
a nice person today and save us from an extra minute.
Okay, Member Booth.
So I'm just interested in just a quick reminder for everyone around the table from staff why we would be seeking this. Why would we want to provide a letter of support? Why is this grant important? What is the impact in our program? And I can read, I mean, I've read the backup, but here we're expressing strong feelings. I just want to hear some strong feelings from those of you that are working,
Please, if you can answer
getting
that.
water to the end of the row.
Good afternoon, Kim Loveland, Director with Child Nutrition Programs. So we have opportunities from the USDA to participate in these farm to school grants. Right now there's 3 grants available. This is the state agency grant. We've been participating in farm to school efforts for 10 years. This is our 10th year in these initiatives. And if anything that we've learned from COVID was the importance of getting our local food supplies in a good place, right? So that's part of it, but we're also trying to get fresh food into our schools and really see that that is important. And we have had really good success with our local food in schools, funding that was provided us with USDA with the local beef that you guys heard about last month and the month before on that. And it has been life-changing for these small and minority business owners. So this is something that we support. We see value in that. We have good relationships with farmers throughout the state and producers, and we would like to continue that relationship and those contracts moving forward to benefit our local economies and to also benefit our school children.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Member Earl, Member Bogus, Member Reel, and then Member Lear.
I'll just be real quick. I know when we first started doing this, it's been 4 years, 5 years, 4? Do you know? 22 was the first grant. Okay, 22. I know those first grants, as it started looking at them and the concern with some of the relationship pieces with the FDA and some of the language components. I'm not seeing that in this program. I went through the whole thing in the way we're using it. I don't see it as anyways, we're not seeing the language we used to, but what we are seeing, at least what I saw, and this is why I can support this, is that it was reaching out to those local farmers, those local producers. It was supporting not just the economies there, but it was also supporting the fresh produce, which we don't always get. Sometimes we get whatever, right, is canned and sent from a larger entity, and it is not always what we asked for in our child nutrition program. Sometimes we get whatever the surplus is from wherever in a broader sense because we can get it at a discount rate. Anyways, I guess what I'm saying in a long way is I appreciate the efforts here and to keep it local to Utah and not bring in the outside language and stuff that really are not applicable to our area. So thank you. I'll be in support of this.
Thank you. Member Bogus?
Sure. So my question would be, through the chair, what prevents us from engaging with these people? Why do we need this program to engage with our farmers and our local produce people? What is preventing us from doing that?
Kim, please.
There we go, thanks. I'm new at this. To your question, Board Member Bogus, we do not, in child nutrition programs, there is not congressional authority or funding for us besides what we can manage within our state administrative expense funds, or the state has other funding to provide support for these types of programs. So we have these grants, they come up every couple of years. We do have a staff member where we're using some of our liquor admin funds to help move this forward. And again, we're just really wanting to support our local economies and help get better food into our schools. I don't know if that answers your question.
I don't think it does. May I follow up?
Sure.
So I'm going to reframe, feel free to disagree. If I hear you correctly, you're saying because of our involvement with the federal government, we cannot engage our local fresh producers and our beef producers without another interagency agreement with the federal government because we're a part of the CNP.
If I could respond to that. The current grant that we have right now, the 22 Farm to School grant, that did fund a person at the Utah Department of Food and Agriculture and Food. Once that grant ends, they no longer have funding for that position. That position is critical for us to move forward with moving this ahead. And we are limited with what we currently have without that additional support.
Thank you. Let's, while you reflect on that, let's move to Member Reel.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to speak in favor of this and this program. And recently it was presented to us in standards and assessment, and I immediately was texting it to my mom who teaches CTE, which is super anecdotal, but she's talked about how she's taken some professional development in agriculture because her students are so interested in growing and farming and fresh foods. And you see that in pop culture, you see it in culturally. I think millennials kind of started it. As you're seeing the younger generations are really interested in having their own little micro gardens and their own gardens in their backyard and knowing where their food is coming from, and the opportunity to have hands-on learning, the opportunity to partner with local farmers. All of this together to me is an amazing educational opportunity, an amazing opportunity for our students to have fresh food. So I'm just speaking in favor, and I think that it's important to have these like micro projects happening and giving opportunities so we can see how we can expand it to a bigger scale.
Okay, we'll go Member Lear, then back to Member Bogus.
And similarly, I see no downside to this. Not only does it help some of the most, the groups that we need to help the most, early childhood education centers, Indian tribal organizations, and the management comes from the Department of Agriculture locally. It doesn't add to our staff burden. It is something that we just support for obvious reasons, that it helps teachers, it helps children, and it's not work for us. So why would we not support this is my question. So thanks for that.
Member Bogus and then Member Green.
Thank you. So I'm going to go back to the question, what prevents us from engaging in this way without this contract? Because to me, we could do all of these things and not be tied to the federal government with all of their regulations that this brings in. So I just would love an answer to that question.
Yes, Sarah, please.
Thank you. So Interim Assistant Superintendent Sarah Young, I appreciate the question because I do think that staff are really looking at the best way to limit burdens on schools. I think in this specific case, the way I would respond to you is to say that in the world of child nutrition, the funding that comes in, the need is so great that we use the majority of those funds to really focus on being able to feed as many students as possible and to keep those costs as low as possible to be able to make that a reality. Because of that approach, just kind of like systemically to be able to address the need, sometimes we have to make as a system some hard choices in terms of, are we putting our money and our efforts into food that may cost a little bit more from a local provider, or are we really focusing in on serving as many kids as possible? The reason we're looking for your support, for a letter of support for this particular opportunity, is because it brings in additional resources so that we're not having to choose and we're able to do both. And that's where we see this as being an opportunity. There's nothing to prevent a school from saying, we really want to work with just our local, farmers and produce to be able to do that. But sometimes that's a hard choice for them in terms of the limited resources they have in serving all of the kids that they're trying to serve.
Thank you. Do you want to follow up, or Member Green is next? Let's go with Member Green.
Go ahead.
Let's not debate this out.
All right.
Okay.
I've got this, Christina. I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so at the top of this document, I wanted to ask you, it says this collaborative project focuses on utilizing state purchasing programs to connect Utah fruit growers with participating schools. So what are those state purchasing programs?
If I may answer. So with that, with our beef contracts, we ran that through state purchasing, which helps alleviate some of the procurement burden on our school food service authorities, because it does take a lot of time to do that process, and we're talking a lot of volume of food. We're, thousands and thousands of pounds of food. So that has been very, very successful, and we would like to expand that to include those fruit producers, to help alleviate that burden for our school food service authorities. And it also helps the producers be able to compete a little bit better, having those contracts in place.
So you have these producers that contract and they get grant money to help with their infrastructure or their ability for higher capacity production. Is that right?
Yeah, if I can answer. With that, once they have those contracts in place, then the school food authorities can pick from the list of approved vendors from state purchasing. They can make those contacts with the producers, put their orders in. The food comes in, they get an invoice for that, and then with the Utah grant system, we'll have that set up so that the LEA can submit that reimbursement to us in order to get that.
Do the producers bear the burden of expanding their production capacity?
To answer that question, we will be working with them one-on-one to determine what their capacity is. With the local beef funding that we've received, for example, one of our women-owned ranchers, she's been able to expand her herd because of that. So we'll see hopefully some benefits with that too, but we know a lot of Utah produce is leaving the state too. So we'll work through some of those opportunities and challenges.
Okay, and can I ask another?
Sure.
I'd like to just know a little bit more about the interagency agreement that exists. It's on number 1, support local producers through an interagency agreement. Do we have access to those? I was trying to scroll through all the attachments to see if that was included, and if not, could we have access to that?
Yeah, I don't have that with me right now, but we can provide that.
Okay. All right, that's all I've got right now. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like Member Bogus. Okay, so the motion before the board is that the board provide a letter of support for child nutrition programs to partner with Utah Department of Agriculture and Food in applying for the 2025 fiscal year Farm to School grant opportunity operated by the United States Department of Agriculture. Let's go ahead and vote. That passes with 11 in favor, 3 opposed, those 3 being Member Green, Member Brinton, and Member Bogus. Thank you. Okay, we still have pulled items, contract items 13.3.1 and 13.3.3. Did we do point 1? Yeah, it's in. Oh, yeah, it's in the contracts. It's the, it looks like the first and third contract. So, seeking any movement. If not, then we'll move on. Member Lear.
I move we approve the contract.
All the contracts.
All, I move we reapprove. I move we approve all remaining contracts.
The motion before the board is that the board approve all remaining contracts. Do we have a second? Second by Member Booth. Member Bogus.
So if I'm looking at our contracts correctly, sir, all of the remaining contracts are the disclosure of personally identifiable information, which clearly holds a value of over $100,000 each because they're on this agenda. I'm not fully tracking that to its logical conclusion, but I would just say that I adamantly oppose the data sharing of these things. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It looks like 10, maybe 9, depending. I've got one printed different ways. I can't tell, but I adamantly oppose the disclosure of personally identifiable information through these contracts.
Thank you. So the motion before the board is that the board approve all remaining contracts. Member Davis.
I don't know if Director Chalice is here, but when we say we're openly sharing personally identifiable information, we're talking social security numbers. I mean, like what?
Here comes Director Chalice here.
Right here.
You have a question directed towards... Are you anticipating a question?
Yeah,
Member
I was
Chalice,
just
you got
listening
one?
in the
Okay, perfect.
in the back room and then miraculously
You got
appeared.
it. Let's...
Katie Chalice, Director of Privacy, and we are talking about specifically the many contracts for the special ed monitoring, correct? Okay, yes. So these are primarily individuals that would be assisting in the reviewing of, as I understand, and is Leah here? Okay. Will you just tell me if I'm wrong? Okay. That are reviewing special ed folders or files, for example, to ensure that everything is accurate. So they're assisting in that monitoring process. As a result of that, they will view the information that's in said files. It's not an export type of situation. We're not giving them the data, but they will have access to it by reviewing the files.
Thank you. I've got Member Earl. Oh, and now I've got... Who do I got here? I've got Lights. I've got Bogus on top, and then Davis, and then Earl. Go ahead.
So why are we listing it as shared data instead of viewed data? To me, those are two different things.
It's funny you say that because we've actually had discussions about making that distinction on the form. But as the form currently exists, we use the term shared to mean traditionally shared or viewed or accessed. But there has been conversation about breaking those two things out for the reason you just mentioned, that it's helpful to have that distinction.
Thank you. Follow up.
So just for clarity, Director Chalice, not one piece of information will leave this building.
Oh, I'm sorry. The monitoring won't take place in this building, as I understand. It's taking place in individual schools.
So may I? So we are not entering into any API. We're not creating a file and encrypting it and shipping it anywhere.
I think that's correct. Yeah, that it is correct that we are not doing that.
Can we please add a second line on this form that delineates those from now on? How would we go about that?
I could work on that with contracts and purchasing.
That would be very helpful for me, and it would prevent this situation in the future.
We've got Member Earl next.
I guess just real quick, when we're talking monitoring, we're talking obligation to make sure files are accurate, and they're going to do spot, right? It's spot checks to verify the compliance for students, for funding, for all, children, to make sure we're headed in the right direction with special education. Okay, that's what I make sure.
Thank you. So Vice Chair Wood.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment. Because I asked about this same thing. I thought it was very interesting that we were making contracts with individual people. And I thought that the data shared with me was very interesting. It says most monitoring activities are conducted by USB staff, but the amount of federal monitoring required in special education does require support from contracted individuals. For example, we monitored a specific school district this year using 28 individuals, 22 USB staff, and 6 contracted individuals. Special education directors, administrators who are in their first 3 years are offered a mentor. This school year, we have 55 special education directors and administrators in their first 3 years. 18 special education directors are in their first year, 25 are in their second year, and 12 are in their third year. We're currently using 4 USB staff, 6 contractors as mentors for these special education directors, administrators. So these are needed people.
Thank you. So the motion before the board is that the board approve all remaining contracts. Let's go ahead and vote.
Which would be 4 through, do we need to amend the motion so that it's 4 to
Well, the motion is to approve, well, since 3.1 and 3.3 were pulled, and then there was a motion to, we approved 13.3.2, and then Member Lear, since that one had already had business done on it, Member Lear made a motion to approve all remaining, which would cover the rest of 13.3.
So that, according to Robert's rules, you can't do that. Once it's pulled, it has to be voted.
We're voting on it right now.
Yeah, separately though.
Well, I asked for a motion. This is the motion I received.
Well, then I would move to divide.
I think we are where we are right now. The voting is open. Let's vote. Okay, that passes 14-2 with the 2 no votes being Member Green or 12, I'm sorry, 14 total, 12-2, 12 in favor, 2 in opposition, those no votes being Member Green and Member Bogus. So that wraps up consent as far as I can see. Is that accurate? Okay. So let's now look at our remaining item from yesterday, and that was requests for statutory changes and board requested legislative funding. I want to ask the board again, do we want to have a hard stop today at 4, or do we want to go? I want to put this in your hands so it's not in mine. So I'm going to, unless there's somebody speaks up and says, no, let's keep going, I'm going to stop this meeting at 4 o'clock.
Okay. Thanks.
I hate to, I don't want to silence anybody, but I know there's stuff happening. So let me stop taking time and let's start moving forward. The first slide I have on here is Member Davis.
Oh, I have a statutory, I'm just in line for a statutory request whenever you decide. Right now, that's it.
This is the agenda item we're on, yes.
It has a part funding, part statutory. It can fit in either one. So are you okay if I just go for it?
Yeah, I don't know what we would wait for one of the other, one or the other, so.
Okay, I'm just pulling my language up really quick. And I'd ask Member Nui to put that up, or not Member Nui. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend. Okay.
Does this meet your, is
Yeah,
this
can
your?
we put both parts up at the same time? It's the 35 million.
So this is under, I think
Unfinished
it was
business.
yesterday's, what are the agenda items from yesterday? 12.2 statutory changes. And so what's happening here is you're not, are you creating one motion, or are you just saying that these motions,
it's a
although they fall in 2
two-part
different
motion.
categories, are related?
No, it's just a two-part motion. It's about the same thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So can I
check
make
those
it?
on the board, and yeah, if you're ready, go ahead and make that
Okay.
motion.
I move that the board requests statutory language for uniform reporting systems similar to statutory language for uniform financial systems and limiting to current systems used. The second part is I move that the board amend the 38 million funding request for one SIS system to 35 million one-time funds dispersed over a 5-year period to support LEAs in their current system compliance updates in the uniform reporting framework. The funds to be distributed via grant, and I'd like to speak to the motion if I get a second.
Do we have a second? I think we got Member Ballinger first. Back to Member Davis.
Thank you. We, as a board, made a motion to look at using a variety of systems currently being used to meet a very specific standard that helps us with the data audit and needs, as opposed to the one SIS system. And I know there have been a lot of conversations over the months about this. I think we're at a place where we would have legislative support for what is on the board, more so than a one SIS system, and also in the field as well. I understand that we do have statutory language for uniform financial systems, and it has actually been quite helpful. It asked us as USBE to get some vendors that were really up to compliance standards, and so that LEAs, if they had troubles in their financial systems, could use one of those to help get to standards, or use their own if their own got up to standards. And so we're currently using 7 financial systems. We can parlay a similar thing to our information systems, and I think it would be quite helpful. Not 7, but 10. We're currently across the state using 10 systems, and the funds would be dispersed in a grant-based system depending on needs to help LEAs get up to compliance, because currently we're not any of us compliant in Ed 5 standards, so we have a lot to do. And, you know, it's going to take money to do that. Additionally, we can increase teeth or a very real communication that the data privacy and protection has to be there, and we can use some of this money to make sure that that happens, because we're in a precarious space with that right now also.
Thank you, Member Davis. Member Bogus?
Chair, so I'm actually uncomfortable voting for this without a fiscal note attached to the first one, because coming into compliance with new stuff is going to cost our LEAs a lot of money. I'm wondering what the fiscal note is on that.
I think that's what the second part is for. You have the statutory request chain, or the, what is it called?
Well, and while I understand
yeah.
that, we don't actually have a fiscal note. Like, who said that it was going to cost us $35 million to do this? Are we just thinking it will? Like, what's...
In our, yeah, it's in our backup on our 10.
For this motion in particular?
Well, this is actually 3 million less, I believe. I think in our 10 priorities, we're asking for 38 million, and it was still unclear. If you remember when this came forth, there was a lot of unclarity, like, oh, what's happening? So I think what Member Davis, and she can speak to it for herself, but I think she's trying to offer clarity and a more realistic approach to the legislature in helping us move this work along. Member Davis, do you want to respond to that? Or did I cover it?
Yeah, you covered it well, and thank you to both of my seat partners here who helped me get my light on. So, like, takes a village, I suppose. The 38 million had been studied as a cost that would be necessary to get everybody in line with a one SIS system, and so and for us to create the SIS system. And so what, instead of creating all the modules that have to happen here, we're still going to have a module creation in the field in these disparate systems. Some are more along than others, but it still will take about that same amount of money to get people to the same place as they would have with the 38 million. And quite frankly, and this is where we came to the multiple of 12 yesterday and the board, I just wanted it to be evenly divided across 7. I took 3 million off the top of it and thought, you know, we can, if there's a need for 3 million at the end, we can go back for that. But it's just so much easier when you're asking for a 5-year ask to say, you know, if the legislature wants, they can do 7 million a year.
Thank you, Member Davis. Member Brenton?
I've just spoken to different LEAs and district people who are so opposed to having a statewide SIS system. They want local control. They said they've already tried a statewide SIS. It was a disaster. The parents have, in some of these districts, wanted to go back, and it would set some of the districts back 10 years in the data that they've acquired, and they do not want, especially with the Power School breach that we just saw affecting individual districts. I think the bigger the system, the more data that can be at risk if there's a breach. So I'm opposed to a SIS.
Member Bollinger? And then you want a point of clarification, Member Davis?
Yeah, this motion is opposed to a 1SIS. This is moving away from a 1SIS and to what you're talking about.
Allowing each individual.
Thank you. Member Bollinger. Were you going to clarify as well? Yeah. I knew somebody would pick it up. It's in a bunch of our minds, right? It's like, who's going to clarify this? Member Boggess.
Can you post the motion? Because I was confused as well. So thank you.
So I'm still confused as to, it sounds like, and maybe I misheard Member Davis, but it sounds like we took 3 million off the top, divided it out, and created a fiscal note that I still don't have a copy of. And I don't, what are we going to take to the legislature to support this $35 million? Even though we're replacing one, what are we taking up there that says, hey, we need $35 million for this?
There's the business cases in backup that has all the details in it. So we do have access to it if you haven't had eyes on it yet. And I think a member of staff could easily help you find it.
For this motion?
For the what did you call it? The money in layman's terms, right? The fiscal note.
We have the fiscal note in backup for the SIS, but not for this motion.
Member Davis.
Yeah, our financial ops and data have met with vendors and looked across the board and said that the development is similar. It's just going to be done among local spaces instead of one SIS here. But we still have to get to a place where we have data reliability, which we don't have right now.
Thank you. Member Hall.
I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure I'm clear. What you're saying is you want separate systems, but all the systems can communicate with each other. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And, okay. So let me restate the motion here before the board. The motion is a two-part. One, that the board requests statutory language for uniform reporting systems similar to statutory language for uniform financial systems and limiting to current systems used. Second part, that the board amend the 38 million funding request for one SIS system to 35 million one-time funds dispersed over a 5-year period to support LEAs in their current system compliance updates in the uniform reporting framework. Funds to be distributed via grant. Member Lear, please.
I just wonder, he's not, and he walks. And he's not eating. I know Scott has been a proponent, and I value his opinion greatly, for one SIS system. I know we've had constant feedback and pushback from LEAs who don't want that, but I'm wondering if Scott would be willing to speak to this, if this moves us in the right direction, and in response to Member Boggess's concern about the funding, is this funding something that comes from the Scott section? Is that clear enough?
Yeah. Madam Chair or Chair or
Just,
Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay, Chair.
I'm
To
distracted,
answer
I'm sorry.
Board Member Lear's question, I do feel that so a lot of the solutions that I know would be, or a lot of the issues, problems, point of entry of data that I know that Scott knows could be solved with one SIS can be solved with this now, right? It's just simply that it is what it is. We have different LEAs with different systems and different capabilities, right? And to get to what right is with systems, you have to invest in those systems. And I know that that opens up debate about the state's role in, or the legislature's role in funding and trying to get it. We have 160 LEAs. Majority of them are in the system that's provided here, right? Which was basically shut off for 5 years. Will this solve all of the identified problems that we have out there? Most of them, yes. Do I still feel that one records management system, much like the healthcare industry did for their patients who wanted choice, who wanted to be able to, have their records instantaneously moved so there wouldn't be lower risk of misdiagnosis and that, they could get better services, so to speak. I still believe that's the way. So before I get unfriended by whoever's left out there on Facebook, I still believe that, but I do feel strongly that we're on the right track where the policy is that LEAs can choose and be in their own systems. Does that help?
Is the money about right?
The money is about right based on because we've learned a lot with the USIM structure build, and that money would be spread out over time. I really feel strongly that we would be supporting local choice, local control of their systems, but at the same time being able to help everyone be on the same level playing field with that. So my answer is yes. 35 million spread out over 5 years.
Thank you.
Is sufficient based on our estimates. Thank you.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion before the board is that the board requests statutory language for uniform reporting systems similar to statutory language for uniform financial systems and limiting to current systems used. Also, that the board amend the 38 million funding request for one SIS system to 35 million one-time funds dispersed over a 5-year period to support LEAs in their current system compliance updates in the uniform reporting framework, funds to be distributed via grant. Let's go ahead and vote. And that passes with a vote of 11 in favor, 3 opposed. Those opposed, Member Carey, Member Green, Member Brenton. Let's go ahead and, we'll move forward. Member Bogus.
And the critical needs USB FD needs funding requests to add 3 additional internal audit department staff to assist with the critical needs function at $546,000, making the total request $1,815,190, and to prioritize the funding appropriated for the critical USB FTE needs to fulfill the internal audit department positions first.
You said a lot more than what's on the screen, Member Bogus. Can you confirm?
Actually, that's all I said.
No way. I'm not going to debate. I'm sorry. Just to clarify, this is number 2 on our priority list. Is that right? Is this the second item? Member.
And if you look at the motion itself, the motion is to amend it and increase it. That which is in parentheses is merely anecdotal information that allows us to see the total amount, and then the remainder of the motion is in bold.
You know what? I started asking questions. Do we have a second? Thank you, Member Brinton. Do you want to speak to that motion a little bit more, or not? Whatever.
I can. I think that we're looking at a place, and in my conversations with legislators and with policymakers in general, they have a desire for information that will only come to fruition through a more robust auditing system and infrastructure. And we too want data, and we want unbiased data. And the only way we're going to achieve what we want is through a more robust and secure auditing system. It needs to be a priority, I believe, for this board and for our state, so that we are making appropriate decisions. And it is very clear to me that we've got great people down there. They're doing good work, and we need to support that work. And, I was here for the previous debate. I understand it, but I think this is something we can all get behind and to support that we need to beef up our internal audit department.
Thank you, Member Bogus. The motion before the board is that the board amend the critical USBE FTE needs funding request to add 3 additional internal audit department staff to assist with its critical functions. 3 FTEs at $546,000. The total critical USBE FTE needs request would be $1,815,190. And to prioritize funding appropriated for the critical USBE FTE needs to fill the internal audit department positions first. Member Carey.
Could we just see the list of priorities? It was there and then it, yeah. Thank you.
Can we get those? Oh, there they are.
And this request, oh, sorry, Chair. Would this request take us from 1.3 million to a new number, or does that number reflect the request that?
From 1.3 to 1.8, whatever the number was.
The new, I'm hearing that the new number, the 1.8, is the 1.3 current plus the 546,000.
It takes 1.8.
Is that accurate, member or maker of the motion?
And,
The numbers were fleshed through our stuff.
and then could we just scroll down so I could see the top 10, please? Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Member Earl.
Can you just, I know you've met with leadership at the legislature and in, public ed appropriations. Can you tell me what their enthusiasm was for funding any of the positions? Are we in a good position to get any of those before we expand it? I know we're speculating, but what was your gut feeling on this? Because if we're going to expand it and we're already not going to get some, it's key that we get critical ones. And that's what we asked staff in the first place is, what do we need, both in audit and otherwise? So
I want to preface this with no excuses, but I haven't heard even as much as you have, Member Earl,
Yeah.
as far as legislatures and meeting with them. And the understanding that I get is usually you guys have too many staff. Figure it out. They're not too excited about this. However, the individuals who sit around this table, we see it
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah.
So I don't mind going back and saying, hey, this is a real need. Whether they listen or not, that's up to them. All of this is up to them, right? But advocating for it, absolutely not a problem if that's what the board desires.
Yeah, and I understand that. My point is that as we add more to it, does it weaken our ability to even get the ones we're asking for? Or is it just worth asking?
okay.
Maybe so.
There's a reason he's chair, and that's because he's diplomatic. The answer is no, in that I think one person took a look at the list and says, you realize you're asking for more money than we've ever had, or something to that. Another one was, this needs to be itemized, and we need far more detail to even think about considering it.
Okay, so there was some
there
question
is
to it,
a-
I guess what-
There is a reluctance, it is similar to a Christmas list where Santa looks at it and the first thing is, is that really your list? I guess is the best.
And I'll
way
just
to
end with this. So
describe
just because I know we're getting close on time here, I think when we ask staff in the first place, ask superintendent, ask Debbie Davis, help us narrow that down. What is it we need so that we're not over asking, right? So that we can move forward. Because otherwise, if we don't get any, then we're even further behind. And I do think getting additional staff in certain areas is key. But I also don't want to get behind. So I just wanted to put that into perspective if that's, anyways, yeah.
Member Bogus, do you mind if I just, I'm going to tell you as a maker of the motion, but I want to let the board know as well. I was just reminded by Vice Chair Wood that we are currently asking for 4 FTEs for audit. This would put us at 7 total.
We're asking for 2 FTEs for audit. This would put us at 5 total.
What we have in backup is we have 2 fiscal monitors, which is auditor 3, and then 2 advanced education auditors. So maybe different positions, is that what I'm hearing?
So a fiscal monitor is different than an auditor.
Okay, so that would be, to her point.
To her point, fiscal monitor is somebody that sits under Scott Jones. An auditor sits under Debbie Davis. Unless staff, please correct me.
Go ahead, Member Bogus.
So, and I am not a member of leadership, but when I have had conversations, in particular, when articulated that the audit staff is so few in number and outside the scope of the superintendency, the receptiveness to critical needs positions increases almost tenfold, which is hard to put a number on, but they relax and they go, okay, she has how many staff? And I'm like, it's under 10 last I checked. She doesn't have very many people. And the receptiveness to the idea of approving these positions increases when you separate it out from that almost 400 number. And the information that they're asking from us can only be attained if we bolster the audit staff. And so I'm not having the same conversations you're having, but I'm having tens of conversations. And the receptiveness to increasing that or to honoring that request, I've never gotten a hard no. I've never gotten a you're off your rocker. I've never gotten a what dream are you having? I need to smack you upside the head. Never once. When I said, this is something we need, and this is a very, very small department, and in order for us to help you, we need this fiscal allocation, and I'm not getting that response of a cold wall and hostility.
Thank you, Member Bogus. Let's restate the motion that's before the board here. And that is that the board amend the critical USBE FTE needs funding request to add 3 additional internal audit department staff to assist with its critical functions, 3 FTEs at $546,000. The total critical USBE FTE needs request would be $1,815,190, and to prioritize funding appropriated for the critical USBE FTE needs to fill the internal audit department positions first. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, that motion fails. 9 against, 5 in favor, those 5 being Member Booth, Member Hall, Member Brinton, Member Bogus, Member Green. Board members, it is 4:02. I'd entertain a motion. Motion to adjourn has been made, seconded by Member Brenton. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We've got Member Green in opposition. Okay. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.